Hey guys, hope you're doing well. This is Uday here from the Vanguard team. And today we're going to go through a really difficult concept for many students. That which is integration by recognition. Now a lot of students, number one, don't understand what this topic is all about. And number two, they really struggle when it comes to approaching these questions. So let's work through an example all together and let's see what should you do to make these questions crystal clear. So the first thing you guys need to be able to identify is actually the structure of these questions. Now these questions always come in two parts. The first thing that they do is they always ask you to find a derivative. Then the second characteristic you'll always notice with these questions is that they'll ask you to find a derivative. So we're going to follow those steps in order and you guys will see how this topic works. Now, most students are able to find a derivative pretty easily. In this case, you have x times sine of x. Two functions multiplied by each other should just be able to be found using product rule. So, using product rule, you guys know that you can differentiate the first function, x, to just give you 1, and multiply by the other function, which is sine of x. Then, go ahead and keep x, and multiply the second function, which is cos of x. So literally your answer for this first part should just be sine of x plus x times cos of x, okay? Now, we're going to move on to the second part, and the one which a lot of people find much more difficult. How do we actually find the integral of x times cos of x dx, okay? Now to understand this one, guys, you need to understand that differentiation and anti-differentiation are opposite processes. What that means is that if I go from f of x over into f dash of x, that's the process which we follow via differentiation. If I want to go backwards, I would have to anti-differentiate. And that's the relationship between the two. So why is that relevant when it comes to x times cos of x? Well, even though you wouldn't know how to find this antiderivative on its lonesome, we have some pretty key information that we found using part A. That is, when you differentiate x times sine of x, guys, you're going to end up with sine of x plus x times cos of x. Now, what we can do is we can use the reverse relationship. That is, the integral of this equal to x times sine of x to get our answer. So how do you set this out in a way that's understandable for your teacher and for yourself? Well, the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and set up the integral relationship. So the derivative of this is going to equal to sine of x plus x times cos of x. But now we're going to take the integral of this expression. The integral of sine of x plus x times cos of x, guys. And as you would know, that should just be equal to x times sine of x. Remembering to write in your plus c, okay? Now, at this stage, you would realize this isn't quite what they're asking for, but part of what we need is right here, the x times cos of x. So what we're going to do next now, guys, is we're going to dissect our integral. We're going to break this down into separate integrals so that we can isolate the x times cos of x, guys. So in this case, you have sine of x plus x times cos of x. So we can split this up as the sum of two integrals. That is the integral of sine of x plus the integral of x times cos of x. And it's almost like solving an equation where you just want to isolate the x times cos of x, bring everything else to the other side. And so here is the x times sine of x plus c. Okay? Now, at this point, this is exactly what we're trying to find. We're going to take the integral of cos of x to the other side, okay? So integral of cos of x, you guys are hopefully aware, would become minus cos of x, okay? This integral over here stays exactly the same without doing much more. And you still have the x times sine of x plus c on the right-hand side. To finish things off, let's take the cos of x to the other side. And so you should get the integral of cos of x times cos of x dx equaling to x times sine of x plus cos of x plus c, guys. And that would be your final answer for this question. So, to summarize, what are my tips and tricks if you struggle with integration by recognition? The first thing you need to do is, number one, find your derivative, and then set up the opposing integral equation. Okay? So always set up the opposing integral equation, and that way you can come up with that relationship a lot more easily. Okay? Now once you've set that up, all you need to do afterwards is go ahead and break the integral down and isolate the desired part. Okay? So break it down using your integral properties that you guys know of. For example, the fact that integral a plus b is just equal to the integral of a plus the integral of b separately. Okay? So break the integral down and isolate the part that you're trying to find. If you guys can follow those steps, you'll realize that integration by recognition is nothing more than just rearranging algebra, just using integrals instead of usual variables. Hope this one helps, guys, and I'll catch you around in the next video.